I thought I'd buried his name for good, but then I saw it on a meeting schedule, bold and familiar, and my hands started shaking. I didn't know if I was about to relive the worst goodbye of my life, or finally understand why it happened, because some names don't fade. They wait. The moment I saw his name, my heart stopped. It was written right there on the meeting schedule, bold and familiar. For a second, I thought it had to be someone else. The name couldn't belong to the same Michael I used to know, the one I promised myself I'd never see again. But when the door opened and he walked in, wearing that same quiet smile, I knew I was wrong. He hadn't changed much. Same calm eyes, same voice that somehow made the whole room fade away. And just like that, all the feelings I buried years ago came rushing back like a wave I wasn't ready for. I looked down at my notes, pretending to focus. My hands were shaking. I could feel him glance my way, but I didn't look up. "Not yet. Good to see everyone," he said. "I'm Michael. I'll be helping with the new client campaign." That voice, I had forgotten how it could sound. Steady, warm, certain. Steady, warm, certain. I took a slow breath and forced myself to look up. Our eyes met. For a second, he froze, too. Then he smiled. The polite kind you give a stranger, not someone who once knew your heart. I nodded, pretending not to care, but inside there was a storm. When the meeting ended, I tried to leave quickly, but his voice stopped me. Claire. I turned. Hearing my name from him again made my chest tighten. He walked closer, hesitant but steady. "It's been a long time," he said. "Years," I answered quietly. "Didn't think I'd ever see you again." He smiled gently. "I didn't think you'd want to." That stung a little because it was true. I was the one who walked away, the one who ended everything without explaining why. Now, here we were in the same room under the same company logo, pretending to be professionals. That afternoon, I couldn't focus. Everywhere I looked, I saw him at the coffee machine, talking to clients, smiling like nothing ever happened. "You're still drinking black coffee," he said softly. "No sugar, right?" I stared at him. "You remember that?" "Some things you don't forget," he said. It was such a simple line, but it lingered in the air longer than it should have. By evening, I was ready to escape. I packed my bag quickly, trying not to think, but when I reached the parking lot, I saw him standing by his car, waiting. "But I didn't mean to make things awkward," he said. "You didn't," I lied. He gave that half smile again. "You were never good at lying." For a moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "People change," I said quietly. He looked at me for a long second. "Maybe, but some things don't." Then he handed me something, a folded piece of paper. "I found this in one of my old files," he said. "I thought you might want it back." Before I could ask, he turned and left. I stood there under the streetlight, my heart pounding as I unfolded the paper. It was a letter, my handwriting, my words written years ago, but never meant to be found. Never meant to be found. "Michael," it began, "I wish I could tell you the truth, but I'm too afraid it will change everything." My breath caught. I didn't even remember writing it. But there it was, proof that I had once tried to tell him something. I sat in my car reading every line, every word I had tried to forget. The last sentence made my hands tremble. "Well, by the time you read this, I'll be gone, but I hope you'll understand one day why I had to leave." My vision blurred for a moment. Why had I written that? What truth had I been afraid of? Before I could think further, my phone buzzed. A message from Michael. It said, "You never told me why you left." Maybe now's the time. I looked at the letter again. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to leave the past buried, but another part, the part that still remembered the way he said my name, couldn't look away. I typed back, "Tomorrow after work." I didn't know why I agreed. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe curiosity. Or maybe deep down I already knew this was a story that wasn't finished yet. I placed the letter on the passenger seat, the ink glowing faintly under the streetlight. The rain started to fall soft and steady. And for the first time in years I whispered his name. Michael. I didn't know if I wanted to see him again, or if I was afraid of what would happen when I did. But one thing was certain. This wasn't over. Not yet. I didn't sleep much that night. The letter stayed on my nightstand, folded and quiet, but it felt alive, like it was holding its breath, waiting for me to open the past again. By morning, I had decided I wouldn't go. Meeting Michael again would only make things harder. But as the day went on, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The look in his eyes when he said some things don't change. At 4:30, a message popped up. A still meeting after work. We stared at the screen for a moment before typing. Yes. He chose a small cafe near the river. The kind of place we used to go to years ago before everything fell apart. When I walked in, he was already there, sitting by the window with 2 cups of coffee, one black, one with cream. He looked up. I wasn't sure if you'd come. And neither was I said, sitting down. For a while we didn't speak, just the quiet hum of music and the sound of rain outside. Then he smiled slightly. You look the same, so do you, I said, though it wasn't true. There were tiny lines near his eyes now, and his hair was shorter. But something about him, the calm, the warmth, hadn't changed at all. The silence between us felt heavy, full of words that had never been said. Finally, he leaned forward. Do you remember how we met? I laughed softly. How could I forget? It was 5 years ago. I was late to a presentation, carrying a box of samples, rushing down the hallway. I turned a corner too fast and collided with him. The box fell, papers flying everywhere. He knelt beside me without a word, helping pick them up. I think your folder just declared war on gravity, he said, grinning. I couldn't help laughing. You're not funny. Maybe not, he said. But you're smiling now, so I'll take the win. That was the first time I noticed his calm energy. The way he made everything feel lighter. After that, we started talking during breaks, sharing lunch, walking out together after long days. It wasn't instant romance. It was something quieter, friendship that grew roots before either of us realized it was love. In the cafe, he smiled at the memory. You were impossible to read back then. Maybe that's why you liked me, I said. He nodded slowly. Maybe it was. Or maybe it was because you listened when nobody else did. I looked out the window. You made it easy. He took a deep breath. Then why did you leave, Claire? No warning, no explanation, just gone. I froze. The question I had avoided for years was finally here. Back then things had been good, almost too good. We had worked together for months, late nights, shared ideas, small talks that turned into hours. Then one night he told me he had an offer in another city. A promotion, a big one. He asked me to come with him, but I couldn't. I was caring for my mother, and I was afraid of leaving everything behind. When I hesitated, he thought it meant I didn't love him enough. We never argued. Not really. But the silence that followed said everything. 2 weeks later, I sent him that letter, the one he found, and disappeared from his life. In the car. Faye, I finally whispered, I didn't leave because of you. I left because I was scared. My mom was sick and I didn't know how to handle losing her and maybe losing you too. His eyes softened. You could have told me. You could have told me. I wanted to, I said, but I thought you'd stay out of guilt. And I didn't want that. He nodded slowly, looking down. All this time I thought I did something wrong. You didn't, I said. It was me. We sat in silence again, both realizing how much we'd misunderstood. Then he said quietly, You know what's strange? The day you left, I found another letter in my mailbox. I frowned. Another one? He nodded. It wasn't from you. It was from your mother. My heart stopped. What? He reached into his jacket and unfolded a small worn envelope. I kept it all these years. I wasn't sure if you knew. He placed it on the table. My mother's handwriting covered the front. Gentle, slanted, familiar. A dear Michael, please forgive her. The words blurred as I read them. My mother had written to him. She must have known everything. I opened the letter with trembling hands. It was short, just a few lines. She loves you more than she admits, but she's carrying too much pain to let herself be happy right now. Please don't blame her. I felt tears rise. She never told me she wrote this. Michael's voice was soft. I figured she was trying to protect you. I sat there speechless. The truth I had buried for years had been sitting in his pocket all along. All those years, I thought I'd left him without explanation, but he had known more than I ever imagined. He looked at me carefully. If I'd shown you this back then, do you think things would have been different? I met his eyes. Maybe. Or maybe we both needed time to understand what love really means. He smiled, sad but peaceful. Maybe we still do. Outside, the rain slowed. The light hit the window just right, making everything shimmer. For a second, it felt like the world had stopped again, just like that first time I saw him. But this time, it wasn't confusion or regret I felt. It was something quieter, a second chance waiting to begin. The next morning, everything at work felt different. It wasn't the projects or the meetings, it was him. Knowing Michael was there again made the air heavier, the silence louder. When I walked into the office, he was already at his desk. He looked up, and for a second it felt like time folded. Morning," he said softly. "Oh, morning," I replied, trying to sound casual. We both knew things weren't the same anymore. The letter from my mother had changed something. It was like opening a door neither of us had realized was still unlocked. I found him sitting outside by the small garden behind the building. He was reading something, sunlight glinting off his watch. He looked peaceful. Too peaceful. I hesitated, then joined him. "I didn't think anyone else came out here," I said. He smiled. "It's still my favorite quiet spot." "You used to sit here too." I nodded, remembering the afternoons we'd escape here to eat sandwiches and laugh about the things that didn't matter. Back when life was simple. He closed his notebook and looked at me. "How are you holding up?" I gave a small laugh. "You mean after the emotional ambush of yesterday?" Something like that," he said. We both laughed softly, but the truth lingered beneath our voices. "I read her letter again last night," I admitted. His eyes softened. "Your mother was a remarkable woman." She was. She saw things before I did. Maybe she knew I'd run from you before I even realized it myself. He looked away, watching a bird land on the railing. "You didn't run, Claire. You were trying to survive." Maybe," I said, "but it still hurt you." He nodded slowly. Yeah, it did. For a long time, the silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It was fragile, like both of us were trying not to break what was finally starting to heal. Later that day, we had to work together on a client project. The office lights dimmed as the evening stretched longer, and soon it was just us again. I was reviewing notes when he said quietly, "I almost called you 100 times after you left." I looked up. "Why didn't you? I figured if you wanted to talk, you would have reached out." I wanted to tell him that I almost did, that I drafted messages I never sent, that I used to check his old social profiles just to see if he looked happy. But I stayed silent. He took a breath. "I kept that letter of your mother's all this time. I didn't even know why. Maybe I was waiting for a moment like this." I met his gaze. "You kept it because you cared." He smiled faintly. Maybe. Or maybe I just wasn't ready to forget you." The way he said it, quiet, steady, honest, hit me harder than I expected. The next day, he offered to drive me home. The rain had started again, the streets slick and glowing under the streetlights. Inside the car, the air was filled with the scent of coffee and the faint sound of the radio. I watched the city pass by outside, but my mind was back in the past. "You remember that trip we planned?" I asked. To the lake," he said immediately. "Of course. You wanted to go when the trees turned red." I smiled. "I wanted to see what peace looked like." He glanced at me. "You could have found it with me." For a moment, I didn't breathe. His words were gentle, but they carried years of what-ifs. When we reached my apartment, I didn't get out right away. He turned off the engine. "Can I ask something?" "Anything." "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't left?" I looked at him, really looked. The years hadn't erased what we once had. They'd only deepened it, made it quieter, wiser. "Every day," I said. He didn't move, just held my gaze. Then he said, "Maybe it's not too late to find out." My heart stuttered. "Mikkel," he smiled sadly. "I know you don't have to answer." Not yet. I couldn't stop replaying his words. Maybe it's not too late. That something inside me still hesitated. It wasn't fear this time. It was the weight of time, of choices made and years lost. Could love survive that long in silence? I walked to my desk where I'd left my old notebook. When I opened it, a small photo slipped out. It was from the office picnic 5 years ago. Michael and I sitting on the grass laughing about something I can't even remember. But what caught my eye wasn't us. Behind us, standing near the trees, was another man. And suddenly the memory came rushing back. That was the day Michael saw me talking to someone else. The same day, everything started to change. He never said it, but I knew he thought something was going on, that I had chosen someone else. He was wrong. The man in the photo wasn't anyone I loved. He was my cousin, the one helping me handle my mother's hospital bills. All those years, Michael had carried a hurt that didn't need to exist, and I had let him. I stared at the photo, my hands trembling. The truth had always been there, captured in a picture I'd forgotten. Maybe this was the moment I could finally make things right. I picked up my phone and typed a message. I need to tell you something. Tomorrow, same cafe. I hit send before I could change my mind. Then I looked back at the photo one more time and whispered, "It's time." Boo! The cafe was quiet when I arrived. The same window seat, the same soft music, the same man waiting for me with a half-finished cup of coffee. Michael looked up as I walked in. His smile was gentle, but his eyes carried a question I hadn't answered yet. "You found something," he said. "You found something," he said. Your message sounded serious. I sat down, clutching the photo in my hand. "It's about the day everything changed. The day you thought I left without a reason." He leaned forward, curious but calm. I've replayed that day so many times. I never really understood what went wrong. I placed the photo on the table. "Do you remember this?" He looked at it. His face softened and tensed. "In the office picnic. I remember." "I'll look closer," I said quietly. He did. His eyes lingered on the background where a man stood beside me near the trees. "Oh, that's him," Michael said. "The guy you were talking to that afternoon." "I know." I cut in gently. "You thought I was seeing him. You thought I'd already moved on." Michael's silence was heavy. He stared at the photo again, his expression unreadable. "Who was he, he finally asked. "My cousin," I said softly. "The one who helped me handle my mother's hospital bills. He was the only family member who stayed close when she got sick." Michael blinked as if trying to absorb the words. "Your cousin?" "Yes," I said. "He drove me to the hospital that night. The same night you tried to call and I didn't answer." He leaned back in his chair, his hand covering his mouth. "All these years, I thought you didn't love me anymore." "I did," I whispered, more than I could admit. "But I was drowning, Michael. My mother's condition was getting worse. I couldn't ask you to stay and give up your promotion. I thought letting you go was the right thing to do." He lowered his hand, his voice quiet. "You let me believe I wasn't enough." Throat tight, and I hate that. "I thought I was protecting you, but I was only protecting my fear." The cafe lights flickered softly, and for a moment neither of us spoke. There was nothing dramatic in the silence, just the ache of two people finally seeing the truth. After years of guessing, Michael looked out the window. "You know what's strange? I tried to move on. I met people, tried to build something new, but it never felt right. I kept thinking about that day, that photo, wondering what I'd done wrong. My eyes burned. You did nothing wrong." He turned back to me. "Maybe we both did nothing wrong. Maybe it was just bad timing." I smiled sadly. Maybe, but now we know the truth. That should mean something." He nodded, then looked down at the photo again. "It means everything." The waitress came by to refill our cups, and for a few minutes we sat quietly, both lost in thought. Then Michael said, "I have to tell you something too." I looked at him. His voice had changed, steadier, more serious. "When you left, I didn't take that job right away. I stayed for a few months. I thought maybe you'd come back." He paused, looking down. "But there was someone else waiting there. Someone I thought could help me forget." My stomach tightened. "You don't have to tell me this." I took a breath, letting his words sink in. They didn't hurt the way I thought they would. They just made me realize how much time we had lost trying to run from pain. "Are you still with her?" I asked quietly. He shook his head. No, we ended things years ago." The relief that washed over me came with guilt. I didn't want to feel happy about his heartbreak, but part of me couldn't stop it. The sun was setting outside, painting the sky in gold and soft pink. Michael looked at me, his voice barely above a whisper. "So what now, Claire?" I opened my mouth to answer, but no words came out. He reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of mine. "We can't change what happened, but maybe we can choose what happens next." I looked at his hand, then at his eyes. Still steady, still kind. The years hadn't taken that away. "I don't know if I'm ready," I said honestly. "I've built a life around letting go." I could feel the air shift, heavy with everything we hadn't said. Then my phone vibrated. I glanced down. A message flashed on the screen. It was from my landlord. "Claire, we need to talk. Someone came by asking for you. Said his name is Mark Reeves." My heart skipped. Reeves. I looked up at Michael. His expression had changed. "That's my brother," he said slowly. "Why would he be looking for you?" The warmth in the cafe suddenly felt cold. I don't know, I whispered, staring at the message, but deep down I knew this wasn't just coincidence. Something about our past wasn't finished yet. The cafe felt smaller after Michael spoke those words. His brother Mark Reeves. The name echoed in my mind like a forgotten memory finally returning. Michael leaned forward, confusion and worry tightening his voice. Why would Mark be looking for you? For you? I took a breath. Because he already found me months ago. Michael froze. What are you saying? I looked at him, feeling the weight of truth pressing against my chest. He came to see me about your mother. He said she'd passed away. He gave me a letter. His eyes widened. A letter from her? I nodded and reached into my bag. The paper was soft and worn from being opened too many times. I slid it across the table. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought it would hurt you more. Michael's hands trembled as he unfolded the letter. His mother's handwriting filled the page. Familiar curves. Steady ink. He began to read in silence, his lips moving slightly as if whispering the words to himself. After a few moments, he looked up, his eyes shining. She knew, he said quietly. She knew we loved each other. She did, I said. She wrote that she regretted coming between us, that she made you choose your career over what made you happy. She asked me to forgive her and to tell you the same. Michael's voice broke. I thought she'd never understand. I reached across the table, my hand brushing his. She understood at the end. Maybe that's why Mark came to find me, to give us both this. He closed his eyes, pressing the letter to his chest. For the first time in years, he looked lighter, as if something invisible had finally lifted. We left the cafe and walked toward the park nearby. The air was cool, touched by the first wind of autumn. The trees whispered softly above us. Michael slipped his hands into his pockets. You know what hurts most? I spent years angry at you. I told myself you betrayed me. But really, I betrayed us both by not asking why. I stopped walking. We both made choices that hurt. But we were young, scared, trying to do what we thought was right. He turned to face me. And now? I looked at the fading sunset. And now I just want peace, whatever that means for us. He smiled, though his eyes were still sad. Peace sounds good. We sat on a bench, the same kind we used to sit on after long workdays when the world felt simple. The silence between us wasn't heavy anymore. It was gentle, forgiving. Michael took a slow breath. I'm leaving again. Not far, but I got an offer to teach in another city. I wasn't sure if I should take it. Maybe you should, I said softly. But maybe this time it's not running away. Maybe it's moving forward. He looked at me, his expression warm. What about you? I'm staying, I said. My mother's house needs repairs, and maybe I need to stop searching for what I already found inside myself. He nodded. You always had that strength. I just didn't see it back then. A gentle wind blew, carrying a few dry leaves past us. Michael unfolded the letter again, reading the last line aloud. If love returns after time has changed everything, don't hold it by force. Just thank it for finding you again. We both smiled through the quiet ache of it. He folded the paper carefully and handed it to me. She wanted you to have this. I think she meant it for you, I said. Then keep it for both of us. I didn't argue. I just nodded, as we stood. Michael looked at me for a long moment. If things had been different, I stopped him gently. They weren't, and that's okay, he smiled. You still finish my sentences? Old habit, I said, smiling back. He reached out and hugged me. It wasn't the desperate kind that asked for another chance. It was the kind that said thank you. The kind that carried forgiveness and goodbye in the same heartbeat. When we let go, I felt something inside me settle. The years of guilt, confusion, and anger finally quieted. Michael looked at me one last time. Take care, Claire. You too, I whispered. He turned and walked away down the path lined with amber leaves. See? I watched him until he disappeared around the corner. That night, when I got home, I placed the letter on my desk. For a moment, I just looked at it, then noticed something tucked inside the fold. Another sheet. I hadn't seen the 4. It was a smaller note in Michael's mother's handwriting. If you ever find this, Claire, tell him that love doesn't vanish. It just changes its shape. I smiled through tears. Outside my window, the wind picked up again, and one of the leaves from the tree outside floated in, landing softly beside the letter. I picked it up and placed it between the pages. A quiet symbol of something that had ended yet somehow continued, love in another form. Some stories don't end where they began. They end where two hearts finally learn to forgive, even if it means walking away with peace instead of promises.